Welcome to the Consulting Leaders Podcast, where we talk about the business of consulting. Whether you're looking to grow your practice or learn from the stories of leaders in consulting, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Guillaume, ex-PwC and co-founder of GHA Marketing. Join me as I interview the best consultants in their niche. Let's get on with the show. Rick, what takes one out of the fantastic world of PE-backed businesses to building your own coaching and advisory practice?
Yeah, it's a great question. So what I found I loved about the entire process, my whole executive career, is the problem-solving stage. The digging in, the figuring out what's really going on through formal problem-solving processes, finding those insights that kind of come out of that process, and then energizing the team around solving or acting on those things. The day-to-day operations, when that's not happening, were just less interesting to me. So I've just focused on the things that I love the most.
That makes a lot of sense. That's a good way to start a business. Start with what you love to do. So tell us a bit more about the problem that you help solving with your coaching practice now.
Yes. So for us, it's basically the problems that we typically are brought in for are the company has hit some sort of inflection point and they don't know how to proceed. Either they don't have full agreement on how to proceed, they need a third party in the room to sort of talk through, maybe it's a third party, maybe it's a 10th party, but there's some disagreement about the process going forward. Mm-hmm. They may be at a revenue stall, they may be at a place where they're starting to scale and figuring out what they need to be doing next to scale. They may find that they've just got some issues in execution overall, or that there's some market changes that they're really trying to navigate. So that's the kind of thing we get brought in for. And it really just kind of plays to what we consider our strengths, that sort of clarify stage, the problem-solving process I mentioned, the figuring out alignment with the entire team, getting everybody really marching in the same direction, and then helping them accelerate from there.
What's the outcome that this helps them achieve? Like, I understand the clarity part, the strategy, right? But how would you describe the outcome that you help your clients get when they are at the end of the process? They've actually defined the right strategy, implemented the right strategy, and now that's the payoff.
Yeah.
What are they getting?
So maybe I can use a couple of examples.
Sure.
So one early stage company was really working on a strategy that had taken them some time. They'd spent about 4 years really working out their product and their overall strategy, and it hadn't really gained them a tremendous amount of traction. One of the fundamental premises of the strategy they had determined was having a big enough TAM for venture capital to sort of be able to go out and pitch venture capital. And the big TAM gave them one big problem from a strategic point of view, which was they really didn't have focus and clarity about what problem they were solving. And so it created this sort of very complex, very unclear kind of business model. And so we came in and I helped them get really clear about what the business model was, to focus not on the two-sided marketplace that they were kind of developing, but rather on one side of that marketplace, on the key parts of that were that had the highest value to them. So we actually defined the range of channels that they were exploring, the ways that worked, really where the biggest pain was and how they could lean into that. And then we had to rebuild then kind of how do you build up to a bigger TAM with that value proposition. But we had to first kind of pull away from this whole idea of we must have a big TAM. And so what they emerged with was an executable strategy. And so after 4 years of not growing, they grew rapidly after that.
I like that. And I want to double down on it. So there is the people who come on the show, listen to the show, are usually a bit more advanced in B2B coaching and consulting. But if you happen to be starting or you're stuck at a certain revenue threshold, what you just described here, Rick, is defining your ICP in a very, very narrow way and basically own that niche. Like make it so detailed who you're helping that when someone sees who you're helping, they're like, this company was built for me. And when you do that, you're going to be able to not only understand their pain points very, very well, so you know how to, target them, position your messaging. You're going to know their desired outcomes very, very well. It's like, I know exactly what you want because I've done it for another 10 people, 20 people, 100 people exactly like you. And once you own that niche, then you can expand. So now I'm doubling down on your example, Rick, but I like it a lot because that's a mistake that a lot of B2B coach and consultants make. They want to have a large TAM, by the way, total addressable markets, which is I want to be able to serve anybody. So if an opportunity comes, anybody with a Pulse and a credit card, I'll help them out. Pulse is optional. So narrow niche, own that, then expand.
Yeah.
So here you mentioned someone who's targeting VCs. Who do you typically help with this, Rick? Who's your
Yes, so my ICP is really, so I focus primarily in education tech, ed services, and SaaS-based businesses, and typically in growth to early stage. So my clients are typically venture capital or private equity firms and their portfolios, if they're in the sort of early to growth stage space.
So what does that mean? What does that mean in the sense of what's the company size? Who's the decision maker? Who is it that you're trying to get into a room with, basically?
Yes. So for me, it's companies that typically, ideally, are at the sort of $1 to $20 million in revenue. And the people that bring me in or that I am guiding, ultimately, it's typically the CEO. It might be somebody in the C-suite who sees the problem. Those are typically where I'm kind of being brought in. Occasionally, it's a private equity leader who's identified a problem in collaboration with one of the portfolio firms and has said, "Hey, we've met this guy. We know, we think you guys should talk."
So that's the perfect segue for the next question that I like to ask, because we have a few cases where someone is working with a typical market, and then they get a taste of the VC world, but also the fact that VCP firms, they will have a portfolio of companies like the ones you're helping. And so instead of trying to target their messaging and then marketing towards their avatar, they develop a referral partner program where the objective is to get in front of as many PE firms and venture capital firms as possible who have their target portfolio company and be like, you want growth? Let me help your company so that you make more money and they make more money and everybody's happy. How do you position your marketing? Do you position it more on the education, edtech firms or VCP firms who own this kind of companies?
So it's really directed at the companies.
Okay.
And it is, but I should back up and say that Guillaume, as you've just described, a sort of a fulsome marketing plan that's kind of moved out beyond maybe existing contacts. We're very much in sort of in the referral space. That is our primary way of getting clients is referrals from people that I've known either through PE contacts or executive contacts throughout my career in those sectors. We have begun just at the very early stages, really, of marketing beyond that group. We take the adage, sort of, it's not who you know or what you know, but who knows what you know.
I didn't know that one, and I like it. It's about who knows what you know. That does make sense, especially in the coaching and consulting front. Why is that, Rick? Well, so you had your own company. You were working in the VC world. Like acquisition channels. Marketing. PE world. Sorry. Why solely relying on referrals? What is working that well for you that you're like, this is fine right now?
It has just been, it's how we've begun. Okay. There's still a work in progress. There are a few places where, and I think we can talk about this, we talk about service delivery, that we're refining in our service delivery model, and that we've just felt it'd be better to have kind of completed that refinement before we expand.
Yeah, no, I like it a lot. And that makes sense. So lots of B2B coaches and consultants, they start with this. Can you give us a bit of thoughts around how you nurture this network, how you make sure that you keep on getting referrals? Like what has worked for you to, we have that model, we know it works, we have our network, but how do you activate? How do you reactivate? Like, do you do such things?
So what we have done, and this is part of the sort of transition we're going through right now, part of the dynamic that we work through is we've historically had very long-term relationships with clients, long-term engagements. And one of this sort of a pro and a con for those. Obviously, the long-term engagement's great. The con, though, that we've been working through is you start to lose your objectivity, and the kind of advisory we like to do is really impactful. And if you're still there after you've made that impact, you're starting to do things. We've in the past have done whatever is necessary to sort of to get the job done to help the company. It's no good to tell a CEO, you've got to really work on your channel strategy if they're running at full tilt and they just don't have time to work on their channel strategy. So in the past, we've done things like, okay, I'll just dive in. I'll do that analysis for you. We'll come up with a channel strategy for you.
Yeah.
So in trying to navigate what I consider to be sort of this trade-off, this pitfall of once you're there for too long, you stop being as effective. We brought on kind of coaching as a practice, and so that we can maintain longer term relationships as coaches to the business, so that we're having regular meetings, but there's no implication in a coaching relationship of doing. It's all about like, let me help you do. Let's talk about what's in your way. And so that's been the way we've been working to navigate longer term relationships that sort of balance this sort of high impact and longer term relationship. Your question was sort of how do you
nurture this network,
nurture those, and so on. So we haven't. So by my explanation just now, we have tended to nurture them in the past by just staying operationally engaged. And we've been working on alternative models to do that in this sort of more coaching dynamic now. In terms of the overall network, the other part of that is keeping them apprised of new things that we're doing. And so we regularly communicate with our network on, what's new, what new solution sets have we come up with, how's that work? What's the case study that we've just come out with? That kind of thing. It's on a very kind of small mailing list kind of basis.
I love that. So when you say you're thinking about new ways to advertise, market your work, what are you exploring? Like for the audience, what is it that you at your level and at your company's level, you're considering developing?
Yeah. So we have one of my clients has been is a marketing firm that does a lot of digital marketing. So the kinds of things that they do are on our roadmap for things that we'll do more of, and that's sort of just being more frequent, having newsletters that are going out more regularly, really automating the process I just described, to be in sort of steady contact, and then continue to expand on that network with assets that are more geared across the range of the conversation. So right now we're kind of continuing the conversation with folks who know us, but starting from scratch, kind of bringing folks into thinking about the various on-ramps into those conversations that we can do using digital marketing techniques.
I love it. That does make a lot of sense. Tell me more about, and I want to come back just to be setting expectations. I want to come back on how you build and retain long-term relationships, because I think that's a super important part of B2B coaching and consulting. I mean, quite frankly, this is also where a lot of business is, right? Like if you can retain your clients, you're set to grow steadily, but also to keep on making money whilst giving value to your clients. Before we get there, I want to understand how you move from this referral in the works marketing mix that you have to that actual, SOW, letter of engagement, we rock and roll. How do you make sales happening? Like how do you move a short conversation from someone in your network, right? So it's not like they've manifested an interest right now of like, let me give you my money. How do you move this to a client?
Yeah. So what we've done in the past, or what we typically do, I guess I should say, has been to just invest a fair amount of time in that early kind of clarity stage, really just understanding their business, having dialogue around their business with them. How is it going? Where are the issues you're seeing? What does that look like? And in that way, it's work. We invest a fair amount of time and energy into essentially scoping, problem and ways we could address it. And we do a lot of that long before we're ever kind of pitching a solution. It's really just sort of digging in and getting clarity about where they could use some help, and exploring what they've done, exploring how they've done it. Very, very soft sell approach. Very consultative, really out of the gate, but just on a no commitment kind of basis.
And for me, that's the way to do it. Like, first of all, we're in 2025 at the moment we're recording, soon to be 2026. Anybody can claim anything on the internet nowadays. Literally, everybody is an expert on LinkedIn when you look at the posts. And I think building trust whilst building authority within the sales process is the way to go, because like, cool, let's start solving for the first steps, and as long as it's reasonable, right? You're not gonna have a 10 hours workshop, but like, okay, tell me more about where you're at, what's the objective, what's the goal, well, have you tried? Okay, have you tried this? Well, let's implement that. Let's talk again in 2 weeks. And you build as you go, and at some point it's just a simple, like, do you want more of this? Let's work together. So I like the approach very much. Tell me about those long-term relationships. So once you have a client, you start working with a company, right? With an education or education tech company. You deliver your coaching. How do you retain them? How do you make sure that you keep on delivering value month after month after month, years after years, and that you keep on working with those clients?
Yeah. So I mean, it's a great question, and I want to answer it in a way that doesn't feel just like a pat, like an obvious answer, sort of make sure we're delivering on our promises. But what we do...
Which is a good start.
Which is a good start. Yeah, absolutely. So, what I've done in the past certainly is stay as close as possible. So I really want to be seeing the business as they are. So I seek to get is access to what systems I can for the client, what they're comfortable with, and typically that the level of comfort builds over time with the engagement. But so that I'm seeing the same information that they're seeing, and it's not just reactive. Here's what we're kind of doing. Either we've got a specific project we're working on, but we're also able to sort of see what else is going on with the business, what's the biggest priority for them, so that we're not getting out of alignment with what's biggest for them right now. And that's been our biggest way of retaining relationships with clients, is staying very, very aligned with what's the real problem right now. We've seen, I've certainly, all of us have seen, all of your viewers have seen clients whose just priorities, they shift, right? Things that were going well, and then they stop going well. And if you're still staying kind of monolithically, against the project you started with, and not thinking about ways you can help them in this other, sort of aspects of their business, then you're in danger of losing the engagement and losing the ability to help them any further. One of the advantages of my own just really diverse experience is that I've done most things that my clients are doing. I've actually held that role, had that hat on, and so it does allow us to provide to have more maneuverability in terms of what kind of problems we can solve.
It's funny you'd say this, and that's a recent shift for me. But like now, when I seek external help, and we do very often because we want to grow, we want to progress, we only hire people who've done what we're trying to do and who've achieved the form of results that we want to achieve. So I think what you just said here is super powerful. I think most B2B coaches and consultants, right, they are coaches and consultants because they are experts in a very specific niche. But when you have that multiple faceted, if my English expression is correct, background, this allows you to make more people relate, help more people, and double down on this. So I like it a lot, and that does make a lot of sense. Curveball for you, Rick. Because when you come from the very demanding PE world, right, you know a thing or two about business.
Mhm.
So I guess this question is not going to be that tricky for you. But where is your existing challenge in your firm? In the sense of once you crack that nut, you're going to take the whole thing to the next level. If that's the goal, again, because I like one of the things you mentioned as well, is like where you want to go, right? What's the goal? So for you, what's the challenge that you're working on right now that you know will help you unlock the next level of growth?
Yes. So I think my biggest challenge right now is focus. We've got a lot of different projects going, and there are it's a simple prioritization exercise that I do with my clients. And I've seen Guillaume from other interviews you've done that practice what you preach, right? We sometimes
Yep.
don't, consultants. But my biggest work right now is to focus. So to sort of whittle through some of the priorities we have. We have some longer term, relationship plays with sort of business launches, with large partnerships, with venture partnerships. There are obviously client work. There's the building out the coaching side of the practice so that we're building a different kind of relationship long term, and really just organizing around those things and prioritizing them is what my biggest challenge is right now.
So I'm not sure of the English expression again, but I think I'm going to translate the French one and hopefully that will make sense. The shoemaker's son always goes barefoot.
Yes, right.
It's like, that's very interesting. So, and not specifically looking at you, Rick, but maybe in the clients that you coach as well.
Yeah.
Why do you think is that? Why is it so hard to focus on the thing that matters the most? Why are we getting, and by the way, I'm guilty of this myself.
Yeah.
Like the things I have on fire right now is crazy. But why is it that we cannot just focus on the one thing?
Yes. Yeah. Well, the thing that I do with clients, so I can speak about this in the third person and not talk about how well I'm applying it to myself, is actually you build out some sort of rubric, decision-making rubric that helps unpack what's embedded in that decision. So part of what there are always complex rationale that we, for things we're not unpacking, things projects we really like and would like to see go, but maybe have a lower probability, or they're just more complex. Things that are lower hanging fruit and have real promise. They're known paths. They have maybe lower promise, but they're sort of easy to get wins. And working your way through those in a consistent way is something that I do with clients, and I think that's easier to do often with a third party than it is to sit down with yourself and really unpack all of the rationale you have, including just I've always wanted to do this thing, or asking yourself the tough questions of, okay, great, you've always wanted to do this thing. Why? Tell me more about that. That kind of stuff.
I like this, and I think I'll add one thing, and that's from personal experience, like how I see this specific problem right now. I think we need to accept the fact that some fires are gonna keep on burning, and they're gonna keep on burning because these are not the most important fires. You need to take care of the biggest fire, the biggest point of constraint. But I like your framework. So beyond focus, what's the next big thing for you? Where do you see the biggest opportunity in your niche and in your company, Rick?
So there are really two areas. One, we're building what we describe as sort of preemptive or positive turnarounds. And I'll use an analogy to talk about explain really what that means. The analogy actually is my own experience long ago as a salesperson, as I was getting training through Xerox's sales training process. And I was on their sort of fast track program and was doing sales training. And I was really nervous about my own ability to sell. But I played to my strengths, and as the time, my sort of time in territory began to kind of grow, and I was still working on longer term big deals. Those plan and review sessions with leadership would get tougher and tougher. Tell me where your deals are, why haven't you closed anything, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. And I wanted to get ahead of that, so I did preemptive what's the term I used? Sorry, just completely blanked.
No worries.
Well, basically my own turnaround plan. That's not what I call it, but my own turnaround plan was basically, here's where we are. Here's what I'm doing about it. This is, yes, I fully acknowledge. And I led with that rather than waiting for them to ask me. And that process, we've been leaning into that for organizations that are just seeing areas of stall before they get into full blown, wow, we've got to course correct. And so it's sort of that preemptive process of, hey, any places in your business that are sort of, you're seeing stall, let's dive into those. Let's help you kind of right the ship with resources that perhaps you just don't have bandwidth right now to tackle those, but they're going to get worse, and then you're going to have to tackle them. So let's get out in front of that. So that's one area for us. The other is I've described it before, but executive and leadership team coaching. The sort of areas of alignment, the areas of just, sort of obviously the coaching practice for executives, more and more of them are finding, the sort of seeing value of having a coach. I certainly did as a senior executive. And one of the strongest data points I got early in my career was Vista Equity Partners had a tremendous track record as a private equity firm. And certainly, I don't think anybody knowing Vista Equity Partners would describe them as sort of warm and fuzzy. They absolutely invested in leadership coaching for our team well in advance of the trend, because they were like, these are assets. We want them to be high performing assets. As a hobby, I do triathlons, and I have a personal coach, and my performance has gotten substantially better since I got a performance coach. So coaching is the other area.
So I had a guest say this, and I'm gonna borrow his, I'm gonna steal his quote here. He said that funny thing about the fact, so he's been a coach for like 50 years, so towards the end of his career. And I was like, 50 years ago, you would say, oh, you have a coach, what's wrong with you? Today we'd say, oh, you don't have a coach, what's wrong with you? So I think you're right, things have evolved a lot. The offer has, obviously developed a lot as well, but I'm not surprised that literally the industries, VCs, PEs, that are making the most money are a bit ahead of this curve. And understand that if you have great leaders, everything downstream goes faster and better. So that does make a lot of sense. Rick, thank you so much for coming on Consulting Leaders. If people want to find out more about you, see what you do, or be updated when you put out those new things, where should they go?
Varroom.com, Varroom.
And I was on mute. Interesting. That is pretty straightforward. We'll put all the links in the description. What I will say for sure as well, Rick, is that you've gained at least one LinkedIn connection out of this interview. Me, I just added you. Thank you so much for coming on Consulting Leaders.
Guillaume, thanks so much. Appreciate having me.
I appreciate you.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Consulting Leaders Podcast. We hope you learned valuable lessons on how to grow your practice and take your business to the next level. Make sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening to this show so you never miss an episode. To apply and be a guest on the show, click the link in the description. See you next time.